the Successful Mind Podcast.
Successful people learn how to make their minds work for them. I'm David Nagel, and this is the Successful Mind Podcast. Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing good.
Good.
Yeah. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, you're welcome. I mean, the reason that you're on the podcast is not only are your clients, but you're doing really amazing things. And we wanted to give everybody a glimpse of this transformation that you've been going through, where you were, you know, what you're doing, where you are now, and where you're actually kind of headed, you know, because it's been really big. It's been pretty amazing, right?
It has been.
Yeah. So why don't you start off by telling us, where were you in comparison to where you are today? Like when you were more struggling, when you were having a rougher time.
Okay, you could take January of last year, 2023.
Okay.
We can start there.
Yeah.
Really, the whole first half of 2023 was an immense energy effort to just stay in decent energy because we were dealing with a lot of voices from the outside telling us what we need to do, which was very opposite of what we were feeling led to do. And so there was this real struggle of self-doubt going on. And when I say struggle, I mean, we were like really in it of, okay, this shouldn't be a struggle, but it is a struggle. You know, just the head awareness, not living out here internally, and seemingly in this sort of cycle. Yeah, it wasn't seeming, it was this cycle of like, we'd break through and things would be getting better. And then, just doubt really bad come back in, and in this perpetual cycle of it. And we had come really far in the last 6 months of the year previous, and then we're cresting coming into January of 2023 and start into this cycle. And it just got so tough all the way up until really June, July. And that's when a massive like awareness came about for both of us through the probably June to July, the weeks of probably about 6 week span where we both got really aware of how much we were denying our own selves, like who we really are, because we were believing we weren't safe to do what we felt we needed to do.
That it wasn't safe?
That it wasn't safe to do what we know we needed to do. Like what we were wanting inside. We were betraying the lead internally.
Yeah.
Because that can't possibly be what we need to do. That's not what's done. This isn't the formula to follow. And so, gosh, who are we to say that we know better? You know,
right.
So really tied to the whole, like, who am I to the whole self-worth thing. And that first 6 months of 2023, I look back at that and go, man, that was crucible of face down facing, looking at the self-worth like issue and in this running away cycle and facing it and running away cycle. And that June to July, things compressed, that these pressures of like voices got really loud. And I don't mean voices in the head. I mean, other people, they got really loud and pretty strident in the way it was stated of, you don't know what you're doing. You don't even care about your business. You don't, those types of things that, man, just really knock you. But it also, when you're in a process of growth internally, you're going to wind up coming to a place of confrontation in yourself of like, all right, that's it. At some point it's, what am I going to do? Am I going to keep in this cycle and listening to this, though I can tell the battle it creates within me, that it doesn't align with who I am. it's not where I'm going. I can tell. And though it may be completely make no sense to anybody else, my being won't let me accept this and continue to just not be who I am and express that through what we build. You know, whatever we build is an expression of our being. We're this vessel, like we both feel. Yeah. We're like, if you're alive, you're a vessel. Like there's something you're bringing, you know? And whatever you create is coming through that vessel. And then that itself becomes an extension of you as a vessel. It's a vessel, right? And it took a lot of really, this is an honesty of I've got to break from letting myself allowing this in my life.
So up to that point, you had the feeling that you wanted to do something bigger, but because of the voices, it was creating a doubt.
Yes, and we had that feeling for a long time. We knew we were on a path to bigger. We could see it, but then every move we would make towards that, because it didn't fit into a certain paradigm or structure thought of others, we're hearing, how we don't know what we're doing, right? And with the self-worth issues that, overcoming each individually in our own ways, you immediately think, oh, well, they must be right.
Yeah.
They must be. Right.
Yeah. Often I talk about on the podcast the idea that one of the biggest problems that we have is that we're not our own authority in our mind.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's one thing when you're seeking advice for somebody, but you still have to maintain your own authority and follow what feels right to you. Mm-hmm. But we often don't do that, right? Yeah. Because we think we put somebody else on some kind of a pedestal that they're better than us, that they know better than us. And then there's this doubt that, our inside intuition saying, go this way, do this. Mm-hmm. But doubt's going, no, maybe not. Maybe they're right. Mm-hmm. Maybe they know better than we do.
Yeah. Like this whole looking to the outside for validation of my own authority. So I've ceded my authority completely and abdicating my own judgment, allowing another's judgment to replace my own in my own life. And because whatever we build is this expression of life from us, right? And the realization that came about over that 6 weeks of like, oh my gosh, I am doing this to me. I am allowing this. I am listening to this. I am the one bowing down to it and in continuing to invite it.
Yeah.
Like that means I can just stop.
Right.
And then the faith it takes to really allow yourself to be all you actually are, not knowing whether or not it's all going to come, like knowing all the hows, right?
Right. Well, you said the stop, so that decision comes first.
Oh, yeah. That.
Right. Then the faith, then the how, all of that.
And it was like textbook of, I go back through old, the TIM program, right? The Elite Mind program, go back and listen to some of those. And it's just like, boom, boom, boom. When I look at those 6 weeks we both were like, we gotta stop being in this environment of these other experts telling us who we need to be and how we need to be. There's a reason we are meant and want and deeply desire to build what we're building. We need to listen to us, and we got to stop, meaning we got to remove that from our environment. And I don't know what else we're going to do in terms of there are services that we consumed from different sources that were this environment, right? And without those, it takes some faith to be like, all right.
How are we going to run the business?
How are we going to run we do know what we're doing. It's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, what we do know is we learn.
Well, isn't that interesting though? Like there's a level of knowledge that you already know, but you even start doubting that.
Oh, yeah.
Right. The bigger the longer the time goes, the bigger the doubt gets because the voices just stay there and it kind of wears you down. And so something has to break. It's either you break or you break from that voice that's getting in the way.
What kind of effect was this having on you, Karen?
It was depression sunk in and big doubts and lack of joy in what we were doing. I made the choice to do the type of law that we're doing on purpose. It wasn't by accident. And I do love what we do, and I do love the way we help people. But that was even getting, like, it was losing the fun of it and the joy of it in just everyday life, even sometimes, because it was, you build yourself back up through 10 mornings, through other things, you build yourself back up, and then you get this voice and it comes down and it knocks you down. And you, at some point, your resilience has been knocked so much it's harder to get back.
Right. Yeah.
And so the longer you're in that environment, then it's just kind of, you stay down there.
Yeah.
And so it was really that, like, it has to be a choice. We have to do something different. This can't keep going. This isn't the way life is supposed to be. And so deciding to make a break from listening to other people about what we should and shouldn't do and how we should do it. And
well, it's a dangerous thing, because you can get to this place where you can't see your way out. Mm-hmm. I mean, it can get really dark for people. You know, some people never come out of it. I had a friend that committed suicide back in 2009 because, and if you looked at their, like their financial sheet, they were worth $50 million. They went from 100 million to 50 million because of the housing crisis that we had, right?
Yeah.
And they were being shamed by people. He was being shamed by people around him that he was supposed to love and trust, and they were supposed to love and trust him. And he went into this dark place, like, how could I be so stupid that I lose 50 million?
Yeah, like your whole perspective just...
Yeah, and I kept saying to him, you still have $50 million, right? But he couldn't see it because the shame and the guilt and the embarrassment of what was placed in him. And he ended up killing himself just a few months later after that. I mean, it could get really, really dark. It can be dangerous for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And they stop listening to their own voice and they start listening to somebody else's voice. And then it just goes to a bad place.
Yeah, it gets rough, Thankfully, we didn't go there. I know that one of the most exciting things about it was the decision itself turned a light switch on. Like instantaneously, once the decision was made, it was like your whole orientation to everything you're doing just shifts entirely. It's like a 180. Boom.
Yeah.
Now you're looking at a landscape in front of you that isn't defined by any of that because you decided no. And you don't know what this landscape holds in front of you, but dang, it's all possible.
Right.
Even if you don't know how, even if there's fear, it's yours. It's yours now.
Sure.
Now you get to make it.
Yep.
And it's been yours the whole time, but you haven't lived in that reality. And now you're living in the actual reality. You're in alignment with what's actually real. And so you begin the ideas start to flow,
Yeah.
And the fresh thoughts come, and it's literally that decision is like this, just, like a door just sliding, just slamming down of like, nope, new in front, fresh, new, real, go. And then it's the fun of maybe we don't know. What if we totally screw up?
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna learn a ton of stuff. And we definitely got earful from these other types of inputs that we were putting the wall down for, the boundary down, saying no, we're not listening anymore to this. Of you're, all the stuff you're going to screw up, you're going to do this is going to happen, this is going to happen, you're not. And it just was like, no, wall went down, not listening to it. And if we do, fantastic, because we're going to figure it out,
right.
Right.
But your reality doesn't have to be my reality.
Correct.
Right?
And I'm never going to learn
Yeah.
all that is in me to come out and to do. And this deep, like both of us foundationally have this total awesome vision deep desire to bring certain things to the world, and we're never going to know if it's going to work if we're not allowed to be us in the bringing of it.
Yeah.
Right.
How do we get to learn to get better in it if we don't do it our way? You know? So yeah.
Where was the business when you entered, we started working together at this point, right? Where was the business at this point that we're talking about right now?
So it was very much dependent on the two of us.
Right.
We had a person that we were training up and was doing an awesome job coming into the lead of the team. And we had, around 18 employees, I think.
Yeah.
We had a lot of bloat going on.
In other words, things you didn't need?
Things we didn't need.
Yeah. Was that discoverable as you went, or did you know that and you were just tolerating it? How did that shake out?
Probably lots of tolerating. Some of it we knew and were tolerating, and some of it showed up as you cleared some of it out. Then more shows up, and you see what can be done in a better way.
Okay.
Well, when you're trying to, because one of the things that I think that contributed to the inefficiencies and bloat and stuff that was hitting the bottom line in a not good way, right, was you can't help but be you. I mean, you exist. You are you, right? And then you're trying to fit yourself into this mold that doesn't fit you. And so you're doing what this mold says to do, except you're still you, not fitting into that mold. So you've got all this kind of extraneous stuff getting built and done and designed according to a blueprint that's not even you. And so none of it's working quite right, and certainly not in alignment together, right?
Sure.
And so you end up with a lot of bloat and frankly a lot of, leakage, right? I mean, of just inefficiencies everywhere and frustration, If we're frustrated, absolutely our team's going to be. Like, that's definitely something we've learned. And, we did back, in September of 2022, we did that, the CEO Solutions workshop and did a lot of vision work. And the two of us attended, and that was incredibly important. It began the real process of helping us find our direction through this sea of
you have
stuff.
to have that vision. If that vision's not there, you don't know where you're going. You're just stumbling around trying to pick up the pieces from the last thing, but the vision it's like the roadmap, right? Here's what we're building. It's like we're going to put this puzzle together, and that's the vision work that we did, and that was
it's everything. I mean, we came together in that, and then in the process of about 6 months from that, you offered it again, and we went, and I took our coming into training firm administrator, right? Like, I took her to that, and we had not yet identified her as being the firm administrator at some point, but she was definitely leading and managing the team, right? And she came to that, and it just blew wide open. Right. And then we were on the phone with Karen. Karen flew in right after. She and I had some travel together, and we just went through that whole CEO Solutions, the second one that I was at with Crystal in our office, Crystal Bendel, phenomenal person. And we went through it together in our travels and just honed
the vision
together.
The vision.
And then got excited about, as soon as we got back, it was like date on the calendar before we were even back. Crystal had it dialed in, vision getting shared all the time. Like, we're getting this, we're getting all on the same page.
That really helped her.
Oh,
yeah. She then had what she was working towards. So as leading the team without the vision, it was sort of like, well, I kind of know what I'm supposed to do, but I don't really. So we're going to kind of maybe do this. And then the other people's input on what a firm should look like or how a firm should operate just muddies the waters so much that once the vision was there,
you weren't
and we
even
could go.
Following your own vision.
No, we weren't.
You were just doing what you were told to do.
We weren't. Yeah. And that's it. No wonder that, like, the struggle internally that frankly had been there for a while, it started getting really intense from when we started implementing and living this vision.
Right.
And just, this is who we are. This is what we're about. And the whole team super inspired. No wonder that the other influence is that it began to get just incredibly intense internally, because we were going, man.
Yeah.
And this is still there. Well, it's going to come to a point.
Was that when you did the vision exercise, was that the first time that you really admitted with clarity to yourself, this is what we want and this is where we're going?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's important.
Well, we had a lot of clarity that a lot of people would say we had a lot of clarity. We could talk about, we have passion about what we do.
Right.
We're clear that we want to bring it, that we want to make this impact on the world. So a lot of people, I think, would think that we had a lot of clarity. But it's like there's the word clarity, and then there's clarity when you actually have your vision dialed in, delivered, living, breathing, everyone behind it, inspired, locked in. You know, it completely transformed the culture of our firm.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes me want to cry when I think about how much beauty is in that culture now.
Yeah. And through all of this, right? And we're also going through crazy shit in the world, right?
Yeah.
You started having an awakening
Oh, yeah.
during this time, right?
Big time.
You want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So, and it really kicked off with that decision. I mean, everything kicked off with that decision of we get to build what we build as we are, who we are, regardless of opinions, no matter how expert. No one is as an expert on who I am as I am. Yeah. You know?
Right.
That decision, it just completely kicked a lot of things off that began.
Let me just interrupt for a second here. So when you say that decision, what you're really saying is I took my power back.
Yeah, 100%.
So just for everybody that's listening, like what is it that sparked this for her? She took her power back. Meaning that she was now thinking for herself, making decisions for herself. She planned, right? She did a vision exercise, but she planned her vision, what she wanted, not what somebody else was telling her to do or what they expected her to do or what they were telling her that she couldn't do. She's like, I'm going to bet on me.
Yes.
And then the gates began to open for you as far as your awareness started to increase tremendously after that.
And it was fast, too. Like, down, just boom. Just it felt like internal eyes just opening.
Right.
So it was late July when we, said, all right, done. We're moving on as who we are. And the very next, like in less than a month, we broke every record we'd ever had, revenue-wise, profitability-wise, within that span of time.
Say the time frame again?
In less than a month.
Less than a month. It was like knock us back against the wall. And by the way, that month, if you want to look at patterns of ebbs and flows, that month is historically a super low point in the year. And it was like in the business, historically in the business.
Historically in the business,
yeah.
That month is, if you want to look at those patterns, which, that's not real either.
Right.
It's all there all the time. And for it to be, I just loved the fact that every record broke in less than 30 days from that turning point decision. Yeah. And it happened to be the one that everyone would be like, oh, that's always a low month,
Yeah.
And it's like, gosh, why do we believe that stuff?
How is the depression at this point?
Much better.
Now we can see some light, right?
Yeah.
Just for everybody, just so you know, you can get your hands on this vision exercise if you can get Cameron Herold's book, Vivid Vision. Mm-hmm. We'll probably put a link down in there where you could actually pick that up. That's the vision exercise that we took them through, was Cameron Herold's Vivid Vision. It's probably the best vision book currently on the market today, I would say. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
So now you're seeing some light. You're breathing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're coming into some life. What happens next?
So there was a book that we read in our private coaching with you and Steph that you had told us about, and Steph was, you need to read Rocket Fuel. And read Rocket Fuel. We had read it before that decision was made, but it was like, this is all great, understand it. Yeah, But when you aren't willing to bet on yourself, it's never going to really come into play, right? And with that decision made, one of the things that like kept coming back to me was like, okay, that visionary description in that book, like when I first read it, and I mean, I'm like laughing out loud. I hit almost every single point of what a visionary is, right? But what was I doing with it when I read it? I was still in that place of, oh no, who am I to say, whatever. So I couldn't even accept that that's what I actually am in my own company.
Right.
Because who am I to be that?
Right.
Right. And once you bet on yourself, you're like, well, if I'm betting, I'm betting. You know? It's like, I am that. And
and one of the important
so
things
I'm gonna
about that
be
is
that.
the visionary is not necessarily the person that does everything.
No.
Right.
They're the person that holds the vision for themselves and for the company, right?
Yeah.
And vision, and people in business very often get this mixed up. They think because they have a vision, but they're not necessarily good at the doing of it, that they have to become good at the doing. And that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah, completely. In fact, you're better off finding the people who thrill to be great at that thing.
Yeah.
And letting them do it.
Yep.
And then you, as the visionary, have like for me at least, I receive, like I know, I hear, I know what we need to do. Like the ideas come, and I'm able to talk them through with the leadership team, and then they take them, they identify the who's of to do it, another great book, Who Not How, and let their genius unfold in the vision, right? And the liberty, oh my gosh, to accept who I am in relationship to my company and let myself step into that. Joy just soars, and accept that as that's who I am in this, and that's legitimate.
Yeah.
And breaking away from this, like that concept of that you talk about and teach about, it's so real in the elite mind of I'm not really working or worthwhile in contributing unless I'm behind a desk doing something, right? Like that's not what's real. Like it's okay if I'm not behind a desk.
Right.
In fact, it's where I'm supposed to be is not behind a desk.
Right.
And it's massively impacted the company. I know I'm supposed to follow the lead of who I am. And that flies in the face of almost every concept of what you ought to do or what's responsible, what would appear that way to other people. And it took me still knowing that. Yeah. It still took me, it was dang clear in August, and then super clear late August.
Yes.
That I needed to go. I needed to go be out in nature because that's my thing. And
we talked about that.
Yeah.
Like you were telling me, because there was the tree house and there was the house at the gorge. Yes. And then you went on this road trip, right?
Oh my God, yeah. So I was like, okay, I'll go. And so of course I'm very controlled about it, because I'm trying to let go, right? And it's like I'll go for a week. I'm gonna go for a week. And so I went to up to the North Cascades, amazing, so gorgeous. I was gonna be there a week, and I couldn't leave. Like I needed to keep being there. And I mean, thankfully the firm was at a place where I didn't have to be back, and so I just took it a whole nother week and then came back, and then it was like, all right, I gotta go. And just between end of July to mid-October, Crystal was like skyrocketing in her own personal growth that was totally playing out professionally in the company too, to lead and to step in and to do certain things. And that needed someone if I wasn't doing it, right? Because we're both full plate, right? And she started sculpting things in ways that it was coming off of Karen, it was coming off of me. She was finding the who's, like she was reading the book, she was doing stuff. So this opening of me being able to do the how was unfolding for me to actually be where I needed to be. And then the clarity of direction for the team, I mean, phone calls, Zoom meetings, wherever I am, downloading, and they're taking and going and doing. And it's just, that turned into, I went in again in November up to the mountains, and it was a planned 3-week thing. And it ended up being 3.5 weeks. And I knew at the end of that, it was the last 4 days of it, I should go to a family Christmas thing in Plymouth, Mass, where I have some family. And I'm going to drive I like really wanted to drive all the way across the country and have this like winter wonderland adventure and do this. And so, okay, came back into the firm, came back home, was there like a day or two. We came here for a week for something. I was back for like a day and a half of team training and vision work and holiday awesomeness. And then I pulled out on the 17th of December. That maximum 3 week thing, I'm still going.
Yeah, you're still going. That was where I was hoping we would get there. You're still going. Like it's just turned.
That's why my car.
We were doing all of our coaching calls with you in your car.
Yep. Yeah.
Yep. Still going, and it's been amazing. It's been so. I'm a completely different person. The firm has completely transformed.
So let's jump to that. Where's the firm now? What's the success like now?
Oh, okay. So some quick stats, right? Yeah. So end of last year, so end of 2023, we had improved profitability by 90% over the year before, largely from August to the end of the year, like massively, right? The last quarter of 2023, we more than like our months, we were doubling what we were doing before.
Wow.
Like it was, and I was gone all but 4 days of the last quarter. Like it's just.
Yeah, it's so important, right? You're 90% and you're not even there.
Yeah.
Versus being there constantly and struggling and being miserable.
Correct. And by the way, while I'm gone, I'm literally just where do I go next? Like I'm just listening and going. And then there's just beautiful things that are revealed or given wherever I go, So it's not even like there's this programmed plan that I'm working.
Right.
It's truly
You're following the internal vision at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's what's so weird is that we use the word quantum sometimes because if something can be changing for me and I'm realizing something and I'm like, this needs to happen or this. And in the next leadership meeting or my standing meetings with Karen or my standing meetings with Crystal, it's already happening. Like it starts almost the same day it comes to me and we haven't even talked yet. You want to talk about quantum? Like what?
Yeah, that's wild, right?
It's so wild.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So. It's
that's
cool.
When you're tapped in, Karen's tapped in,
totally.
Crystal's tapped in. Everybody is on the same.
Yeah.
Is on the same page.
Well, and Crystal is like diehard vision every single week with the team, and the team reading it out loud, taking different paragraphs, like talking about it, like every single week.
That's great.
It is awesome. And then I think it was. And I texted you this, I think, in April. We were looking at numbers, and I mean, we look at our numbers all the time, but like there was a particular day that it was like, oh my goodness, the whole 90% profitability. We knew that, we'd known that, but then also looking at, okay, up to that point was late April. It was like, we're also 83% more profitable over this time year to date than we were the year before. Like what, like it's just amazing. This quarter, the first quarter of this year, was gone the entire time.
Yeah.
No, I was back for 3 weeks. That's true. I was back 3 weeks, and then I expected I was just back, right? And within less than a week, it was like, oh, I gotta go again. I see that. Like, there's room created when the person that is like what I am to my company gets the heck out. Room is created for all this other growth to just unfurl, in all these other geniuses that are part of the team. Like their genius starts to just blossom out and all this air that gets created in that space. And people are trying and failing and learning and succeeding. And it's not a thing of just defer, where you come to you for the decision. They're making it, they're trying, with that room. It was, anyway, so we've looked at the quarters since I've been gone, and they just keep going up. Like, so talk about real, that you don't have to be behind the desk.
And the profitability question, I mean, it is a number on a page, but when we look back at what we were doing, we were investing in us even when we had the voices in our ears saying we shouldn't do what we were doing, we still invested in us. And so it was that path towards, we were profitable as people when we were making choices to invest in ourselves.
Sure.
It didn't show up on the company books until we had fully stepped into it and started actually believing that in ourselves.
Yeah. Like, so investing in the tools, investing in the learning, investing.
Was the first thing you did with us Art of Success?
Yeah, way back summer of 2018 in Atlanta.
2018, yeah. That's where most people start with us, is Art of Success.
Yeah. Art of Success. I had a friend who was going and told me about it. She'd done a date with your dark side with you. And I was like, you want to go? And I was like, yeah. So I flew to Atlanta and went. And that put me in the orbit.
Yeah.
You
and
know?
then it was just like one thing after another, depending on what fit and what worked.
Yeah.
So where are you going now? What's the future look like?
So it's really awesome and personal, but
just share what you're comfortable with.
So I'm probably not going to be there much at all. We now plan my entry points and my exit points. Like we plan when I'm going to be in, not when I'm going to be out, right? We're planning when she's in, not when she's out. And we've already, like, her, you can talk about you. You're in a very different place with what you do. But when you ask where we're going, there's so much in my head to tell you, like, what do you want me to focus on in answering that? Because there's, like, I could go for literally ever, David.
Well, so let's leave the personal part out, because that's really private still, right?
Yeah.
So where do you want to take the company?
So, our vision, I think you've read it. I don't know. I know Steph has definitely read it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. It's to bring more life, like literally using what knowledge and skills and talents we have. And the law is this tool to open life up when people think it's closing on them, right? And I want to go, we're going a step beyond that to really help people understand that even when the physical is closing, how much you can expand the life experience despite the physical. And yes, that's somewhat, many people will jump on that and say, that's actually cruel to even say, because that's not possible, right? I do mean, like...
Oh, it's a different level of awareness.
It's a complete, in helping people reach that in their aging process and the experiences of family aging and caregiving, and where your mind, the same thing that was happening to us, of our mind was closing in, like your friend, his mind closing in, where it's not just blinders, it's eclipsing blinders, where you don't see anything anymore. That's their experience many times as they're aging, especially if they have a diagnosis that is terminal or is progressive decline and loss of capacities and those types of things. Even in that, you can still exist in a way that is at the top of Maslow's hierarchy.
Yeah.
You don't have to accept that you're going to fall to the bottom and just be miserable, suffering till you're dead. That is not actually reality. And helping people learn to live and do that for themselves, though life is eclipsing, even if it's the mind is eclipsing, you think that that's what's going, you have a soul. And that'll outdo any of it all day long, And there's almost like, it's like, I don't have all the vocabulary yet, but it's almost like the mind of the soul.
Yeah.
Like the essence of you is never declining. Ever.
It's always expanding.
It's always expanding.
It's always expanding. Death is just a transformation into another level of existence, right? So what a beautiful message for people, right?
Well, it's just what's real, and helping them be able to see it.
Right.
And then,
that's the key.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they just kind of follow the darkness that other people have kind of laid out, which you had your own enlightenment, and now you've taken that, and that's now in the purpose and the mission of the company. So that's
completely.
Fantastic.
It's a beautiful thing. Life is so light, and if you ever think it's becoming completely shadowed, to step back, step away from something, boundaries somewhere, because something's eclipsing the constant beauty.
Right.
It is infinite. It
is.
Soaking you. Like you can literally experience it no matter what,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want anything to add to that?
I just think that, from my position, we created this company together. And the stories of, when you create it together, you do everything together and but stepping back for me to let Becky be the visionary was huge. Not that I ever necessarily resisted that, because I always actually believed it. But being who you are in it all and not trying to be someone else or do something else has been huge for us. And following the vision of the visionary is inspiring for everybody, just as much as it is for me as someone who is a founder of this company. And I believe in it, and it's my vision, but I don't have that quote visionary. I'm not that person. And that's fantastic, because I shouldn't be.
You're you.
And then seeing how that vision can get carried out with other people, this just made my life like a huge sigh of relief. Like, oh no, I don't have to do it all, and not even just the visionary role, but the other tasks that we all do in our businesses that we don't need to do.
Right.
Other people can do them.
Exactly.
And that is like day by day getting more and more true. And everything our company does is allowing it to spread out and have the right people doing the right things, allows that message to carry out where it needs to be carried out and get to people that need to hear it.
Spreading the light everywhere.
Well, and just the conversations we've had, the growth we've had of a fullness of her and a fullness of me, and not comparing between the two of us.
Right.
Because that goes on, right? Of like, I should be more like Karen.
No,
and I should do
each
more
other.
of this, of the things that she's awesome at, that if I'm like, and I am just totally honest about it, like, I want to like jump off a cliff if I have to do that. Like, I'm just not okay with it, right? And she doesn't want to do what I do, but yet you have this idea in your head, like, I had an idea of I'm supposed to be like her. And then she's had this idea of like, but, if you're an owner of a company and a founder and an entrepreneur, I'm supposed to look like you. And it's like, no, you're just supposed to, the whole lesson that we learned together and saying, no, we're listening to ourselves, was also very much her own bubble of that lesson in herself and my own bubble of that within our partnership, Well,
it all comes from I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
Right? So
completely.
Anyway, I think that's a good place for us to end it right there. Becky and Karen, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having us.
You bet. Thanks for listening to the Successful Mind Podcast. If you like what you heard and you want to learn more, go to lifeisnowinc.com.